PUBG is super unforgiving, and honestly, most of the time the people with the better loot are the people who end up winning the game. If you're anything like me, when I first started playing, I had a hard time getting good loot, which often put me at a huge disadvantage. So today I've compiled the 5 best low-risk, high-reward places to land on the original PUBG map. My name's Proximity, and you're watching Battle Royale Guides. Now this should go without saying, but I figure I better cover my own tracks. None of these places are always going to be low risk, high reward, but typically they are. You have to take into account the placement of the plane and try to weigh in the options of how many people are probably going to land somewhere. So I just want to say that real quick. Not every time are these places going to be low risk. And I'm also gauging these on low risk, meaning that you're probably going to be the only, if not the only of like 3 teams that are going to land in these areas. You still might have to fight your way out, but it's going to be a lot easier to manage than landing somewhere super hot like military base or school or Pochinki. You're not going to have too much action there. So let's get into this list. And I also just want to keep in mind, these are in no particular order. These are just 5 really good spots. So the first spot on the list is Zarki. Now Zarki is an area that is very rarely touched by most players just because it's in the very top left corner of the map. It's a nice little city that has a ton of good loot. You can always get out of there with a lot of meds, a lot of ammo, a couple different assault rifles, maybe even a sniper. It's one of my favorite places to go, but it is something to keep in mind if you go there that you are in the top left corner of the map, and that pretty much means that you're almost guaranteed to have to travel a long distance to get to the safe zone. So if you get to Zarki and you meet there with other players, I recommend trying to fight them as soon as possible, so then you can just focus on looting, get a vehicle, and get on out of there. Next up on the list is Rozhok, or Rozhok, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. Now this one might come as a surprise to a lot of people because it is pretty much centered on the map and it's very close to school, but that's actually the reason why I like it, because most people that get out are focused on going to school, and there's always going to be a few people that go to Rozhok, but the reason I believe it's lower risk is because it's very open in comparison to the other cities. There's a lot of space in between the buildings, so you can easily see where everybody is, and that makes it to where when you do need to fight the couple other people that are going to land there, it's pretty low risk in the sense that you know where they are and you can kind of gauge how to take that that fight, so you don't have to just be running around panicked all the time like to say if you landed in Pochinki. But it also usually has really good loot, so it's one of my favorite places to go. And another plus is that it is very centered on the map. It's always pretty easy to get to the safe zone from Rozhok, so it's one of my favorite places to go. Next up on the list is the Flooded City, or the Little Water Town, whatever you want to call it. It's right there in between Ruins and Rozhok, and the reason I like this place a lot is because, again, it's very central on the map, but there's also super solid loot. Now, I will say you will rarely land here by yourself. Almost always, there's another team that's going to land there. But, you can take care of that if you play your cards right. Another thing to mention, it's a little tricky to get around sometimes just because of the fact that there's a lot of damage there, and there's some weird things to walk around on, and there's water on the ground. But I believe it has really good loot, and if you don't come out with good loot, the nice thing about it, it's very central. There's the ruins to your left, there's Rozhok to your right, there's a bunch of little compounds in the same area. You can get to other places to try to get some good loot, and you usually don't have to worry about the safe zone. Next up is the farm. Now the reason I like the farm is because it's again in a pretty good spot on the map, and it has a lot of compounds nearby, including the whole city of Milta. But rarely do I see people landing at farm. At least with my experience, I'm usually probably the only person or team that lands there, and you can get some solid loot. You're not going to get like, super end game looted where you pretty much don't have to loot anything else from farm, but you can get some solid loot, and there's a lot of things really close by. You can catch people leaving the bridge from Milta, you can catch people just leaving Milta depending on the safe zone. There's a lot of places to work with. I really enjoy this place, and I feel like it's one of the least landed places, at least again from my experience. If you have a different experience, that may be, but for me, it's usually a really trusty place to land. And last on the list is Primorsk. I'm not sure, I just call it Prim, that's just the way my friends and I call it. Prim is a lot like Zarki, where it's on the corner of the map, and again, this place will not be low risk if the plane goes straight over it, so you have to weigh that into account. But if you can kind of stretch your parachute a little bit to get there, there is a ton of good loot, a ton of buildings to get to check out and find a bunch of good stuff. And usually you'll be one of 2 teams there if it's not directly underneath the plane. One of my favorite places to go. I really enjoy it. There's a bunch of warehouses, a bunch of good tall buildings, tons of good stuff out of there, and you can usually find a vehicle to stretch your way back to the safe zone. So that's going to do it for this list, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. If you find these helpful, make sure you let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to go ahead and tell us what you'd like to see more on this channel. Give us more ideas. I do plan on doing one of these for the new map, as I mentioned, the desert map, but that's going to be a little bit later. So if you found these helpful, go ahead and leave this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already. My name's been Proximity. I hope you guys enjoy.